Austin was born on August 27th, 2019. And we know, as far as we knew, he was a typical little kid. He was pretty cranky and he didn't really like to eat too much, but these were all things that we were told were in the range of typical and that he would likely grow out of. Um, Unfortunately, when he was 5 months old, he was admitted to Texas Children's Hospital for failure to thrive, for not gaining enough weight. There, they placed a G tube, which is a feeding tube directly into his stomach, which he still has today, to ensure that he gets enough nutrition. And they ran genetic testing. And what they found was really earth shattering for us. We sat across a conference room table from a panel of doctors. And when they said we found something, I think the first thing I said was, oh, good. Because I thought, oh, now there's a reason for um, all this, all this, interesting and odd stuff that was happening with Austin. Of course, they then told us what the diagnosis was, and it was not oh good. They told us that he has a randomly occurring mutation on the LMNA gene. It's like being struck by genetic lightning. And this is not a mutation that either Mark nor I have. And it results in LMNA related congenital muscular dystrophy, or LCMD for short. They told us that there's no treatment, there's no cure. They couldn't say how long he might live, and just to go home and love him. And so, if you're familiar with muscular dystrophy at all, you know that it's a muscle wasting disease that is progressive. Not only, of course, we think of the muscles of movement, like the arms and the legs, but also the heart and the lungs deteriorate. And this is typically what the children die from heart and lung related issues, heart attack, etc. So we know that we're racing against a clock here. We don't know necessarily how long that clock is. We do know that Austin has pretty much reached a peak and has already started to get weaker. And so we are, of course, racing as urgently as we can to figure out what could be done. So we've taken this past year of quarantine to adjust to our new life, to research and network. And while it is true that there are currently no treatments, it doesn't mean that there's nothing that can be done. We know that it will be a lot of work and it will be expensive, but it's been done before for other diseases, and now it's our turn. We know that Austin will continue to get worse and eventually die if we don't do anything. And so that's why we are going after this gene therapy project and raising the money for that. There are over 7,000 rare diseases with very few cures. And that means that millions and millions of people are affected. And you probably know other people in your life who are affected by other rare diseases. You yourself might have a rare disease. And, like as with Austin, besides his body being very weak, you wouldn't necessarily know that he has a rare disease, right? Because his mind is fairly typical. So maybe that's why you're here tonight, because the rare disease story resonates with you. Maybe you're here tonight to love and support us. And, we love all of you for being here. Thank you. Whether you're old friends or new friends or people we haven't met yet. Maybe you're here because our kids are the same age and you can imagine what it would be like to know that your child was going to die. Or maybe because you empathize that we have two kids and one of them is going to live. Sorry. So anyway, trying to move on into the medical research that we've uncovered in our research and in talking to experts around the world. Typically pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies don't start from scratch with these rare diseases, where the patient population is so small, because it doesn't make financial sense, right? And that makes sense. So it's really up to the patient populations to push it forward and to raise our hands and say, let's work on this disease now. So the good news is that these things have been done before. There is cutting edge technology available. And we have found a researcher at UMass Medical named Dr. Miguel Sena Esteves, who is willing to create a gene therapy for LCMD. And he has done other gene therapies before. And this would also be in collaboration with Dr. Ignacio Perez de Castro at Instituto de Salud Carlos III in Madrid, Spain. And Dr. Ignacio has been researching LCMD for a number of years, and he has been just an incredibly generous and kind person with us. You know, we haven't paid him anything, we haven't signed any contracts with him, and we probably speak to him on the phone, 2 times a month. And he's just been a really great scientific advisor for us. So for those of you who may not know what gene therapy is, which I didn't know what gene therapy was, it is basically at a very high level a specific treatment developed for an individual gene or mutation. It is a one-time infusion that modifies the way that genes are expressed so that they are expressed correctly. Gene therapy but it has not yet been mapped for this particular gene, and so that's what our plan is. And so, in creating a gene therapy for the LMNA gene, we could positively affect not only the kids with LCMD, but hopefully and potentially other children with different LMNA mutations, of which there are about 500 other known mutations on this gene, causing at least about 12 other diseases. So our goal for this project, to pay for the project, is $2 million. That would pay for development and proof of concept of the gene therapy, safety testing, and the production of the first batch of treatment. And our goal is to not only improve the quality of life by allowing these kids to strengthen and sustain muscles for movement, but also truly to save their lives by staving off heart and lung issues. We know that it would be wonderful if Austin could sit up or walk and play, but we know that it's also life or death. And we know that if we don't do anything, that he will get worse and die. So we also know that the earlier that kids receive this sort of treatment, the better the outcomes. So we are urgent in our request for help to make it happen as quickly as possible. And so we move kind of into the fundraising aspect and how we plan to raise $2 million, which is clearly a large chunk of change. So we know that we're going to have to tap all avenues of fundraising, whether it's events or applying for grants, and of course, tapping our communities for help. And that's a big part of what we want to talk to everybody about tonight here, because we not only need to ask our communities to donate, but we also need to ask our communities to ask their communities as well. And we know that we can create this exponential approach and just, get really far down the path and blow it up.